AP Cram, the AP Human Geography exam, free response question 38, Demography, Malthus, Demographic Transition Model. And for those of you who are wondering what demography means, it's the study of statistics of things such as births, deaths, income, or even the incidence of disease that deals with epidemiology. And these things illustrate the changing structure of human populations, okay? So it basically tells you the composition of a particular human population, but in terms of statistics. Remember that Section 2 consists of free response questions. There are 3 questions that should be formatted as short essay answers, and you have 75 minutes to complete them, so allocate your time properly. The free response section is 50% of your exam score. You're required to define and explain and apply geographic concepts and also interpret geographic data. Okay? The population pyramids represent 2 countries at different stages of demographic transition and economic development. Explain the demographic characteristics of each country with respect to the demographic transition model. Okay, so I'm not sure if you're familiar with the demographic transition model, but if you've watched some of my previous videos, you should be. It was purported or proposed, I should say, by Malthus, who was some type of he wasn't like an epidemiologist, he was some type of economist back in his day. So I'll give you a moment to gather your thoughts and write out some answers. And if you're not familiar, that's fine. The answer is coming soon. All right, so country A, what stage of demographic transition is country A in based on their population pyramid? I'll give you a brief moment to think or press pause if you need to. Country A would be in stage 2, the second stage, or what's normally referred to as the early expanding stage. We can see at the bottom of the pyramid for ages 0 to 4, there's a high birth rate. It might not be so apparent, but for those countries that are in stage 2, there's a falling death rate. There's a large youthful population, and overall, as in terms of its economics, it's considered a developing country. Okay, some examples, current examples of so-called developing countries. Again, don't be offended by that term if you're watching from that country. It's not my labeling. It's some economic board came up with the term. I mean, you can ignore it. My parents came from, like, I think a third world, what was labeled as a third world country, and they have high educational attainment. So labeling doesn't really matter at the end of the day. But at any rate, current examples are Egypt, Kenya, and India. Okay, and part of the reason why you have a large child population is because many children may be needed for farming, or there may be religious or social encouragement to have a lot of kids. No family planning may be going on, okay? And a reason for changes in the death rate, which still might not be so apparent, is because with economic development comes improvements in medical care, water supply, and fewer people die. Well, the death rate obviously is decreasing among the younger population, and these younger population can now carry the new economy in terms of going out and working rather than the older population working. Okay? Okay, as for country B, what stage is country B in along the phases of demographic transition. I'll give you a moment to gather your thoughts and write out an answer, which I highly recommend. Make sure your answer is concise and correct, or correct as possible if you don't know the full details of what the implications of this population pyramid are, okay? All right, so country B is at stage 4, the fourth. Some call it the final or the low stationary phase of demographic transition. If you're only looking at the economics, it can also be considered a post-industrial, to be in a post-industrial phase, okay? So there's a low birth rate, there's going to be a low death rate, also an aging population. There's a lot of people in the high age cohorts as well as the young age cohorts. And here you can see again there's a low death rate. Younger people are not dying. All right, and this would be considered a developed country, such as the USA, Japan, France, or the United Kingdom. The family implications here, or the reasons for changes in the birth rate or lack thereof, is family planning. That's why the birth rate is low. Good health and improvement in the status of women, meaning women are going to work, so they're probably going to be more educated and make less babies. Also, later marriages, when the status of women are improved or is improved, they tend to marry later, which is my plan. Also, there's good health care. That's a reason for the low death rates overall, okay? This can also be interpreted as stage 5, and that would be a declining phase where the birth rate is very, very low, okay? And the death rate is also low. And a country that would be in a declining phase is Germany. All right, so you can research this topic further, but if you have to write on it, the things that I just mentioned should be enough to churn out like a paragraph or even 2 paragraphs about the stage 4 phase of demographic transition. All right.